Hi, I'm Nikki.
And I'm Megan.
Welcome to the Grimdark Diaries.
We're your geek gal pals obsessed with true crime and all things dark and disturbing.
Hi, hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode. I had a real wild morning. Megan, I'm going to take you on a journey of my morning this morning.
Okay, take me on this journey.
Well, first, I was really stressed about my job. So I woke up really early at like 5 a.m. I panic woke up.
Gosh, why?
Just stressing.
Oh, no.
About stuff I had to do. And once I wake up, game over.
Yeah.
I'm awake.
Yeah.
There's no rolling over and going back to sleep. I'm a morning person, so the second I wake up, done.
That's awful. That sounds terrible.
Right. So I got up at 5 a.m. and then I made a coffee, and then couldn't do anything because I was too stressed about work. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start working.
What?
So yes. But then while I was waiting for my work laptop to boot up, I was enjoying my delicious coffee in my pajamas, and I opened TikTok, and then I saw this TikTok about how the Macarena dance is a Mandela effect.
What?
And I was like, oh no, ma'am.
What?
Oh no, you did not just Mandela affect the Macarena dance.
Right?
Because the guy was like showing the Macarena dance and how he knows it, because you do palm down, flip your palm,
yes.
Hand to elbow,
Yep.
hand to elbow, hand to head, hand to head, hand to waist,
Tush.
or like butt,
Tushy.
hips, whatever.
Yes.
And then shake.
Yeah.
Because it's like one move for every
Yep.
Macarena.
Yes.
If anyone was born in like the 2000s, they're going to be like, what
Huh?
are you saying?
The Macarena. Look it up. It's a great tune.
Wow. So then I was like mind
God.
blown, because in this TikTok, he showed the original music video of the original song. And that is not the dance.
No.
All it is hand out, head, butt.
That's baloney.
And I was like,
Bullshit.
What?
No way. No,
Yeah, so at
why
5
would we
a.m.
all do it the other way?
well, okay. So then I was wild, and at 5 a.m. This was me. I'm like wild. My hair is unbrushed. I'm in my robe and pink fuzzy slippers,
Yes.
drinking a big thing of coffee, being like, I must seek the truth on this.
I love it.
So then
Detective
I
Nikki
went-
at 5 a.m.
Yeah. So then I went to the best place to find information that I know of, and that is Reddit. And so I
From
searched
TikTok to
Macarena.
Reddit, okay.
I searched Macarena Mandela effect on Reddit. And then, of course, I found a thread where people were discussing how the original dance is not the dance that everybody does. And I found out through my Reddit research that somebody made a remix, some guy, and in his remix, they do the dance that we do.
We wouldn't. What do you mean? They came out, like, did the remix come out at the same time as the original song? Because
It was after.
that doesn't make any sense, though, because I learned it when it was new on TV, like on Much
Right.
Music.
Right.
Come on. That's not. No, I do not agree that that's real.
It's wild. Watching the original dance is a little bit painful, because it's not a move for every word. It's like you hold your hand. So it's like Macarena,
doesn't
Macarena,
feel right.
Macarena, Macarena.
Nikki is doing the
Instead
motions
of like
right now.
boom, 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 boom. And I read some article, or maybe it was on the Reddit. I can't remember. The Reddit. I'm 1,000 years old.
On the online.
I've been up since 5. Trying to figure out the history of the Macarena dance. And they said the original choreographer said she choreographed it like that to be so simple because she wanted anybody to be able to do it, like a kid, an older person, somebody with no rhythm. So then it's just those 3 moves.
I don't believe that was the original dance. There's no way. No way. I don't believe it, because I only watched Much Music, and I bet you they didn't play the remix of that song. Also, If it was a remix of that song, like, where would the video have been shown? On forums online. Like, I'm thinking about what year that...
If they're both on YouTube.
It was on YouTube. Yeah, so, like, it wasn't on Much Music, which is where I watched all of my
Well, it might have been on Much Music. I don't know. I can't remember where I learned it. All I know is that I knew the Macarena.
No, the Macarena was on Much Music, but I'm talking about the remix. I don't know.
There's two. So the original one is a white background, and it's 3 older guys singing, and there's a bunch of people dressed in like vibrant clothes doing the dance. And then the other one is like a younger one guy, like kind of like a Spanish guy, and he's trying to be all sexy, and it looks like he has people auditioning for him for something.
Wait, who is the song originally by?
You're gonna make me go down my rabbit hole.
I'm sorry.
Again,
Now I want to know, because maybe the one that I remember is a re-release of it by somebody different.
Okay, so I found my Reddit thread. Los Del Rio and Bayside Boys did the original, and then Los Del Mar. No, the Bayside Boys.
Bayside Boys is the remix.
Is the remix.
Interesting. And when was that released?
1996.
The 96 was the remix?
Yes.
Okay, that sounds more right. When was the original released?
No, wait. Los Del Mar is the remix.
What?
And then, see, this is why
I'm so
my
confused.
research was not good this morning. And then Los Del Rio is the original with the Bayside Boys.
I'm so confused. 1993 was the original.
Yeah, so that was Lost. What makes it more confusing is their names are very similar.
Right? Los Del Rio and Los Del Mar? That's so
anyway,
weird.
this is...
Okay, anyway.
That was my morning.
Wow, okay. Well, it's
probably
the remix that I heard then, because I suspect 93... I was only 10, so that doesn't track right for me learning it then. I think I would have learned it when it came out again in 96 when I was a teen.
I just got a notification on my phone, and it says that our dear friend Raina was seen on my front door camera, and I don't believe that. Oh, it was my husband's brother. Oh. Well, it confused those people up.
You can actually tell your system who is who by their photo.
Yeah, when it gets somebody in its camera grasps, I can open it up, like it records it, everyone that ever goes on the camera, and then it recognizes the face.
Okay.
So then we put people's names. So then instead, it doesn't know the person, it'll say unknown person seen, like zone 1, zone 2, wherever it is.
Right.
But then if you put the name in, it'll say like Artemis seen zone 1.
That is, 1, the coolest thing ever, and 2, the scariest thing ever.
Yeah.
Wow.
Except clearly sometimes it doesn't work because it thought that my husband's brother was our friend Courtney. And it also can't tell the difference between our friends Ryan and Scott. It always thinks they're the same person.
Really? That's hilarious. They don't look
so that's
anything
exciting.
alike.
What else do I have going on? I'm on vacation right now for 9 business days.
Yay! We're on vacation the same week. Next week.
Exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's the longest I've gone on vacation in a very long time.
Yay!
And I'm fearful.
Sometimes you need a long vacation, though.
The problem with taking a long vacation is it's harder to go back to work, and the desire to quit my job and live in the woods ever increases.
Yeah, that's fair. Like I said earlier, your give a frig factor is much, much lower when you come back from vacation, I find.
Oh, I will be out of cares.
Yes, exactly.
By the time I go back, I hope. Or I'll just be really stressed. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll wake up at 5 a.m. and find another dance from the 90s that is possibly correct or not correct. It's anyone's guess.
I could go down those Mandela effect rabbit holes all day, every day. I think
don't even get me started on the Bernstein Bears.
It's so fascinating. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about our story.
Okay, I'm in. What's it
Shall we?
about?
Do you remember my topic?
Nope. I remember nothing.
I got, you know what really grinds my gears?
Right. Now I remember because I said it reminded me of Family Guy.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And oh wow, did I find a good one for this theme.
Uh-oh.
I'm sorry if my research is all over the place, but I was in like a rage blackout when I wrote this.
Oh, what?
Because it really grinded my gears.
Really?
So then I'd find something else that made me mad and I'd have to add it in.
Oh, no.
And so by the end of it, I was just like throwing in sentences being like, and this, and this. So I don't know.
Oh, God, that does not fare well for how I'm going to be reacting to this story at all.
No, that's why I'm trying to jump in because I feel like it's going to be, what's the Spanish word for hot? No, fuego. No, that's fire. Caliente. Is that spicy or is that hot? Caliente.
Either way, I think spicy or hot kind of mean the same thing for the type of story you're going
spicy.
for.
No, spicy means like it's going to be a little bit sexy.
Okay, it can, yeah. But spicy can also mean like, you have a hot temper. Pretty spicy thing you just said there, Nikki. I don't know.
I'm going to call Megan that from now on. If people are ever like, can you describe Megan? I'm going to be like, she's a little bit spicy. But I'm going to let people interpret it the way they want to.
Okay. You're describing me to a lot of people, are you?
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks for letting me know.
This season of Stranger Things was really
so
good. Right?
So good.
One of the themes in this new season, season 4, is that they had Satanic Panic in their town that revolved around a Dungeons and Dragons group that they labeled as a cult, a satanic cult.
Yeah.
So today we are going to talk about how Dungeons and Dragons, a beloved, harmless role-playing game, became intertwined with Satanic Panic.
I can already
in the
tell
1980s.
My blood is going to boil from this one.
It's just thinking about it makes me mad. Like my blood pressure goes up.
Absolutely.
So first thing first is I will give a quick reminder of what Dungeons and Dragons, aka D&D, is, just so that we're all on the same page, because I know not everyone that listens plays. It is a storytelling game where you and your party members basically build a shared narrative between you. There is a dungeon master, also called a DM for short, and they lead the story. So they pre-prepare the story before you guys meet up, or they can base it on, they sell books with different modules and stories that they can use as a guideline, or they can write their own, sky's the limit, whatever they want to do for their story. Everyone gets to make a character from a big list of different races and classes. You then use different sided dice to roll stats for your characters so that you know all of their abilities and attributes. So for example, in the game we currently play, my race is elf and my class is a mage. So I'm like a magic user wizard person. I did not roll overly well when I was doing my stats. So nothing is overly high, which is very unfortunate.
The squishiest mage there is.
Oh my goodness. I had to put my lowest roll somewhere, so I put them into strength and charisma. So I have very low strength and very low charisma. But because I'm a magic user, I had to put my higher rolls into my intelligence and my wisdom and my dexterity. So, you kind of build your character and then that decides who I am. Like we were last time we played, because I have very low strength. What did we say? I was trying to help somebody open a chest, but really I was pushing down on it when it needed to go up.
Yeah, that's right.
And I thought I was helping. You can also decide on a cool backstory or a personality for your character if you want, so that you can kind of role play that character, or you can just kind of play them like yourself. You can literally do whatever your imagination tells you to do. In a session, your DM basically describes situations to you and your party, and you get to use your imagination and role playing to just work collaboratively with your party and decide what to do, what you want to do in that situation. So you can, make a decision of what you want to do by yourself, or your party can decide together what kind of thing they want to do. And again, sky's the limit. Whatever you want to do, your DM is just going to roll with it. Every part of this game is shaped by you, by the players. It, as big as your imagination can be and as creative as you can be, is what this game is.
My favorite part about D&D is the DM always saying, well, you can try.
That's, yeah.
Literally my favorite thing, especially our DM. He's like, yeah, sure, you can try.
Yeah, because people will say, I want to do this.
Yeah.
Can I do this? And he'll say, you can try.
And sometimes he's even like, I'd actually like to see you try.
Yeah.
The time I did the lasso around the legs of that mob we were fighting.
Oh, yeah. Your DM will often, because they build some kind of story, you usually have some kind of a quest or a task, but that they kind of assign to you, somehow you meet all these party members and you usually are trying to go do something together or accomplish something. But how you accomplish it is completely up to you. The other aspect of the game, which we incorporated into this very fabulous podcast, is rolling a variety of different dice. So for all you role play and you decide what your character wants to do, the dice you roll might have different plans than you. So if my DM told me there was a band of sleeping goblins blocking my path, I might say, I want to try and sneak past them without waking them up. So then my DM would tell me to roll my 20-sided die for a stealth check to see if I could stealthily tiptoe past them. If I rolled high enough, then I would succeed. And the DM would be like, okay, describe what you do. How do you sneak past them? And I might make up, I get on my little twinkly toes and I like like twinkle with my little fingers in the air across all of them, hopping over goblin and goblin and them not sensing me. Or if I roll poorly, then the DM would probably describe how I embarrassingly tried to step over a sleeping goblin, but I tripped over my own feet, crashed into a stack of swords that all clanged to the ground and woke every single goblin up, and I am now prone on the ground and they are going to kill me. And then I need to decide what to do next because my plan clearly failed.
Yeah. And then we gotta save her ass.
Yeah. And then my party needs to jump in. Somebody needs to make a quick decision of who's going to save my butt.
That's right.
That is kind of D&D in a very quick, summarized, simple form.
Yeah.
I personally think it is the greatest game on planet Earth, and if anyone is ever interested in playing it, I highly recommend you check it out.
Same. It's amazing.
Megan, did I miss anything? Was that a good summary?
That's a really good summary. Yeah. I would say, I mean, there's so many other angles you can go into it. Obviously, there's all of the different types of creatures you can meet and be friends with or run into and need to destroy, or dungeon crawling, which is fun. It's hard to describe something that is so open. Mm-hmm. It is a completely open world that's shaped by your imagination and the imagination of the people you're with. Yeah.
So like the basic thing is that you roll dice, you make a character, you roll dice. Mm-hmm. And like that's it,
right?
Because you decide what you do.
That's right. When I started playing, like I only started playing like, well, I played a very short campaign with a couple of friends back, I don't know, 2014 or 2015. And I was very new. I didn't know anything. I was very shy. A little bit introverted. I didn't really talk a whole lot. So my gameplay was pretty like stagnant. I kind of just went along with everybody else. But I find since I joined this campaign, I started off that way as well because I didn't really know how to play. I still even asked that question. I'm like, I don't even know what I can do. Not so much what I can do, but like, how do I do it? How do I roll? Like, what do I roll for initiative? What do I roll to hit? And all this extra stuff. Like, you just kind of learned it as you go. And I mean, I highly recommend joining, and then you just get more comfortable with that aspect of it. You learn as you go, and you get more of an imagination as you go because you're literally immersing yourself into this world. and just becoming this character, and you're literally hanging out with all these, you know, the band of misfits that you found along the way, which is your party, and you just end up becoming friends with them, and it becomes who you are, and you become like this character, and all of your friends are their characters, and you just make up this make-believe world that is just somewhere you want to live in real life but can't. You know what I mean?
Oh, I wish I was an elf mage traveling the countryside.
Yeah. I love it so much. Highly recommend it if you're ever curious about it, for sure. There's one-shot D&D sessions you can do too. And one-shot is just basically like a one-day campaign. It's pretty quick. You can get through it pretty quickly in a couple of hours, and that'll kind of give you an idea if that's something that you're interested in or not.
Agreed. Agreed. So now that we know all of this, it seems very absurd that a beloved game could be wrapped up in something called Satanic Panic. And if you're not even sure what that is, it was just a movement driven by the fear that ordinary people were being lured into devil-worshipping cults. And it was real booming during the 80s. There are a lot of factors that connect the very, very far apart dots of these two things, D&D and Satanic Panic. But thanks to the eruption of conspiracy theories, the glamorization of serial killers, and ever-growing fear of your own neighbor, D&D was made out to be the gateway to the occult and something that was poisoning the minds of young people. To make it worse, several very public Christian organizations accused the game of leading children to Satanism. And I have some more points later on about the reasons that the church thought it was not good. I have more detail on that, so we will get to that. A lot of the media claimed that kids were drawn into this fantasy world, and then they were confusing their imagination with reality. So, yes, in this game, you do a lot of fighting and killing. That's just part of the mechanics. Is you encounter lots of creatures and you use your dice to roll and fight them, depending what you do.
It's like you say you do. You don't actually kill anything.
You don't know. It's just
yeah, you're just
making
like,
it. And you can decide how you want to do it. Like I'm a magic user, and I have spells that can incapacitate people. So if I don't want to kill somebody, I have a spell called Sleep, where I can try to put them asleep.
Yeah.
Or I have other things that do make them feel emotions, so I could make them feel scared so they run away.
You have a glitter spell. Incapacitate them with glitter everywhere.
Yeah. So, but that is a part of the game. You do fight things and you probably kill them. There's bad guys. That's kind of, part of the world of D&D. You're kind of in, usually the original D&D is like a very medieval Lord of the Rings feeling kind of world. Mm-hmm. So then the fear was that kids wouldn't be able to disconnect from it being just a game. So they would be so lost in their imagination that they wouldn't be able to separate it from reality.
That's ridiculous.
I'll tell you what, I get into D&D and I get into my character.
Yeah.
I don't think I could ever be that into a character.
No, me either. Literally, when I leave the table, I'm like, all right, I gotta find my purse and grab my phone, and like literally real world things. Like you're immediately back into the real world. Well, not that you leave it in the first place. Like you're just playing a game. Like you can check your phone, you can do other things like real world. You're not like one or the other. It's like together. Real world and immersion. Like, I don't know. Maybe some people get a little carried away, but
maybe. Another big part of D&D is magic and spells. So once the church found out that, then they accused the game of witchcraft. And we all know by now the church they say no bueno on witchcraft. Mm-hmm. Do not likey. It ended up causing such a moral panic that researchers started looking into it to see if it was actually warping children's minds and turning them into murderers. because that was the genuine thought, is that D&D is turning kids into murderers. But those researchers, including those with the Center for Disease Control, they even looked into it. They established no causal link between the game and violence. Nothing. Nada.
I'm
Zip.
pretty sure even the studies today say the same thing. Like, there's no relation between the two whatsoever.
Literally none whatsoever. One notable event in the timeline that really put D&D in the hot seat was the 1979 disappearance of James Dallas Egbert III. And this kind of was just when the real Satanic Panic was heating up, so it was just bad timing. He was a 16-year-old Michigan State University student. His family hired an investigator to try and find him because he'd gone missing when he was at university. And when the investigator was doing research, they found out that he was a huge D&D fan. So then that played a huge factor into their investigation for some reason. They then immediately came up with the theory that he was too far into the game and he lost touch with what was real and what was fantasy.
I was like, too far into the game? Like what, level 16, level 20?
Man, I can't wait to be a level like 16 mage.
Right? You're going to be so strong.
Wink and I'll blow something up.
You pretty much already do that anyway.
So they really had no evidence of this, but this was just the theory that they were going. The investigator learned what D&D was, and he was like, "Nope, no, ma'am, this is not good. This is leading down a bad path." So then, the theory of where he was is that they thought he was underground at the university in a series of very long, confusing tunnels. I don't know. For some reason, one of these university buildings had all these different tunnels underground. And they thought that he was down there playing D&D. He got so far into it and so lost into imagination and couldn't find reality that he physically got lost down there and been down there for weeks.
Like, are these quote unquote adults? Like, are they speaking from experience? Like, do they realize that imagination does not take over your entire being? Like, I don't understand why they would think that. Doesn't make any sense.
Right. It doesn't.
No.
I'm telling you right now, Megan, you're going to try and make sense of a lot of this. You try and connect dots. One dot is in Canada.
Yeah.
The other is in
Australia.
Japan.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, pretty much.
Anywhere that isn't a different continent.
That doesn't make any sense. None.
No. And just to make this theory even less nonsensical, is that the reason they came up with this underground tunnel theory is because they went to his dorm room and he had a corkboard. And on his corkboard were a bunch of tacks. And the tacks kind of looked like the shape of the building that the tunnels were under.
What?
So boom, Bob's your uncle. He's under the tunnels.
Oh my. That is some stellar detective work right there.
Right?
Oh my gosh. Oh.
So this caught media headlines right away. And the media went wild.
Of course they did.
Very, very catchy titles. You know, Dungeons and Death and whatever they could think of, slaying dragons and blah, blah, blah.
Satan and all the other trigger words that you can throw out there.
It was the literal newspaper equivalent of clickbait. What do you call that? What is a physical clickbait?
Sensationalized headlines.
Sensationalized headlines. Mm-hmm. I would click them had I seen them on the interwebs.
But before the interwebs was the thing.
So, spoilers, they did not find him in those tunnels.
What?
They searched. Right?
Shocker.
Turns out he wasn't down there.
Shocked.
Wild, right?
Pikachu.jpg.
After a month-long search for him, it turned out that he just ran away to Louisiana. But people that knew about the case, including investigators, still blamed D&D. The investigator even wrote a book called The Dungeon Master, The Disappearance of James Dallas Egbert III.
He just ran away from home. I have no idea what
this book is about.
Like, why? I don't understand. I don't understand how they made that relation. Like,
yeah,
there's no like relevance to D&D at all. He was a kid that ran away from home. Like, it happens.
Yeah. And so there's also more to James as well. He was an extremely brilliant young man. Articles even called him a prodigy. He went to university when he was only 15 years old. So very, very intelligent. He did have a lot of mental health struggles, and he battled drug addiction. He had been extremely depressed, especially over all the academic pressure that was put on him for being so gifted and being at university at such a young age. And he had previously attempted suicide.
That's really sad.
It also came out that around this time, he was struggling to get his parents to accept that he was gay. Unfortunately, the next year in 1980, James Egbert took his own life.
No.
Even though it had nothing to do with D&D whatsoever. The fact that this happened and the case was originally attached to D&D and Satanic Panic meant that this blew up.
No.
As D&D caused him to take his own life.
Oh my gosh. That's so frustrating. Like, this poor kid did not have the resources he needed, obviously, to help him through.
It sounded like he had a lot of pressure on him.
Yeah, absolutely. And from so many different angles. And not given the proper resources to deal with it all. Like, to be, no offense, but put into university at 15 years old, no matter how smart you are, that's
God, I could barely
tough.
tie my shoes at 15.
Well, think about the age of the students in the school too. Like, he probably was looked down upon. Yeah, he's super smart and that's pretty cool, but I can't imagine he would have been like, you know, he couldn't hang out with the kids who were going to school.
He couldn't even drive.
Older. He couldn't drive. Yeah, exactly. Like, that's
you wouldn't have the emotional
too.
maturity of your peers.
No, not at all. And it wouldn't be, you wouldn't be able to connect with them on any kind of level that they would feel comfortable with or that he would feel comfortable with. I just feel like that's a lot of social pressure too. Like, I can't even begin to imagine what he was going through.
And that makes me think, I didn't read this in an article. This is just my own theory. So this is just from the book of Nikki. I bet that's one of the reasons why he was very into D&D, because it's a way to connect socially with people. And it does not matter your age, where you're from, young people, old people. It's just creativity and imagination. So it's a very easy way for people from different facets of life to connect.
Yeah.
So that would make sense that he was very involved in it when he was there, because it would be a way for him to feel included and similar to his peers.
There's zero judgments in that group for like age. Like, ageism is not a thing.
Well, because you're playing a completely different character. So you could be 15 and you could be playing a 500-year-old elf. 40.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say 40, but yeah, exactly. There's
40-year-old elf. It'd just be a baby.
Well, I said 40 because that's what I am in my character, but I'm a half elf, so.
You're a half elf.
We don't live as long.
I'm 100 and I'm just a baby.
Yeah, you are.
Although all this publicity surrounding the game definitely put a bad connotation on it, it also caused its popularity to skyrocket. Within 90 days of all that happened with Egbert, they started selling thousands more copies of the D&D manuals. Sales nearly quadrupled the year after Egbert disappeared.
The CEO is probably like, it might not be good publicity, but it's still publicity.
Yeah. Right?
Honestly, it's still got their name out there, and here we are. Sales skyrocketing.
At this point, they're getting a lot of attention from two very conflicting groups. Those that want to buy it and play it, and those that want to ban it from being purchased and played. Televangelists made it their personal crusade to try and destroy D&D. They made lots of commercials and ad spots about the dangers of D&D. A book was even released called A Christian's Response to Dungeons and Dragons. I watched a clip from a news spot from the 80s, and the reporter guy said, and I quote, "Dungeons and Dragons has been the most effective introduction to the occult in the history of man."
What? Is there any relation to occult and D&D out there ever in history?
I mean, there's like occultish things in D&D.
No, I mean,
but again,
a D&D, you know what I mean? Like a D&D campaign turning into a cult. Like the people who were playing D&D. It doesn't.
Do you mean a cult? I said not a cult.
Oh, you said occult. Okay.
Yes.
Here we are with a difference.
It's an introduction to the...
Okay.
It is the most effective introduction to the occult.
Okay, that's different. Yeah.
In the history of man. Yes.
I was like, a cult? I can't even imagine how they would turn it into a cult. Like,
it'd be a very teeny tiny cult of your party members. The creator of D&D, Gary Gygax, and one of the original contributors, Tim Kask, they couldn't believe what the media was saying about the game. I watched a video interview with Kask, and in it he said that they would honestly just laugh because it was so absurd to them that this game that they, created, worked on, thought up could be linked to devil worship. It was actually laughable to them because it was so far from that.
Because it was
they just couldn't believe.
Literally, like, as a game, you don't ever expect to hear that kind of feedback. Like, oh, you didn't like the game? Okay, that's fine. Thanks for the review. But like, oh, you think my game is turning people into devil worshippers? Like,
yeah.
I wasn't expecting that outcome.
To make all of this negative press even worse, there was a string of teen murders and suicides across the states, and it just so happened that either the murderer or the victim played D&D. Even though there was really no connection to the game whatsoever, what happened in these murders and suicides was completely unrelated. The people just happened to have a hobby in common, a very popular, trendy hobby right now. Mm-hmm. The grieving parents needed something to latch onto because, you'd never believe that your child would take their own life or that your child would take somebody else's life. So they needed something to believe and something to blame. So then they made connections that it was the game. D&D did it. Another big news story that brought more negative press was when a high school student named Irving Lee Pulling, who also happened to play D&D, took his own life. His mother, Patricia Pulling, was convinced her son's death was caused by D&D. She actually tried to sue TSR, which is the company that made D&D. It's like the founding company, and the high school's principal. According to her, the principal allowed the game to happen at the school, and one of the other students playing put a curse on Irving's character, and she believed it to be a real curse, which led to his suicide.
What?
Yes.
You have got to be kidding. That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life.
She did not believe that her son would take his own life, so the only way he would do that is if a curse was put on him.
No offense, and this is so awful to say, but like, I feel like she sounds like the type of person he wouldn't have wanted to confide his feelings in. So she likely had no idea what he was actually going through.
No.
Which is sad in and of itself, but I mean,
Oh, it's
don't blame
tragic.
something else on your son's tragic death because you can't deal with the fact that you didn't know your son was going through something.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking.
If I heard her say this, I would have immediately discredited her. Been like, you think a game
Legit.
put a real curse on him?
Right.
And that's why he took his own life? No, lady. Sorry.
Like, I want to cry for this child because, my God, like, how awful did it have to be? And, like, I can't even begin to imagine. And this game was probably the only good thing that he could do or that he could, like, get out of his own head.
Right.
Because you're playing make-believe and you're living in a world where you are anything you want to be. And then comes home and can't talk to his parents about what he's feeling in real life. Like, it just...
Right?
It makes me very sad.
It's very much the opposite of what these parents and the media and the church and everybody think. They think that this game is leading to these awful things and driving people to murder and commit suicide. But really, it's more likely the opposite, that it's helping to save a lot of people.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly believe that. Yes. It's an escape from your reality.
The neighbor's dogs are barking for the 1,000th time today. I could kill them.
So annoying. I'm so glad there's no dogs allowed here. Not that I don't. I love dogs, but I would not be able to stand it if I had yappy dog neighbors.
Oh my goodness. Just deep breaths.
There's a dog lives, where my dad lives. It's like a house perpendicular to their house. And their neighbor basically leaves their yappy dog outside all day long and never brings it in. And like, I know, I actually like want to call the SPCA because I feel like it's neglect. Like, you're not doing anything with your poor dog. You're just letting it bark all day long outside. He probably just wants to come in and cuddle. Just so sad. I know.
Don't bring more sad stuff into the sad story, Megan.
I'm sorry. You just reminded me with the yappy dog neighbor thing. At least it's not all day every day because that's sad.
Yeah. So Patricia, that was her name, right? Yes, Patricia Pulling. So she took the principal and the company behind D&D to court. The courts dismissed it before it actually went to court because there was zero connection between these things. Nothing. She had nothing.
Nothing to base her accusations on.
Right.
That's ridiculous.
After this, Homegirl was not taking no for an answer. She was like, okay, courts, you're not going to side with me. That's fine. I will find another way. She put together a campaign called... Actually, you know what?
A campaign?
You know what, Megan? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give you the acronym of what this campaign is. And I want you to tell me what these letters stand for. So then the acronym is BADD. And it has 2 Ds. So BADD. What do you think this campaign Patricia put together stands for?
I want to say bitches against D&D and Dungeons and Dragons.
Good answer. Good answer.
Thanks. Is that what it is?
Good answer.
No.
No.
Okay, good.
I prefer that one.
I honestly feel like it should be that one.
It stands for Bothered About Dungeons and Dragons.
That is the lamest name I've ever heard in my life.
Right. I feel like she made the acronym and then was like working in reverse. Yeah. And she's like, well, now I got to think about something.
Bothered about? Like, that sounds so... That doesn't even feel like the intensity that I think she wanted to bring to this campaign.
It sounds like you're just like, it's Winnie the Pooh. Like, what a bother.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. Oh, Lordy.
Patricia and BADD described D&D as a fantasy role-playing game which uses demonology, witchcraft, murder, satanic-type rituals, and demon summoning.
know.
How many of those have we done in our session?
What? Wow. I don't like any of them. I don't know. This whole thing is just so bizarre. Even the spells you do learn, you're not learning the name. Like, you're not learning how to say a spell.
No, you'll have the components. Like, it'll say, like, oh, this spell requires a leaf and a bit of flint.
Right.
And then it tells you the name of the spell and what it does.
Yeah, and then you're just like, okay, I cast this thing. Glitter. What is it called? The glitter one? Which makes me laugh every time. Glitter dust. Or fireball when you catch all your friends on fire.
Yeah, frig, yeah. If we did stuff in D&D that actually happened outside of real life, half of my party would be burnt to a crisp because I blasted off a fireball last session and I blew out half the party.
Yeah, you took out, I think we talked about this last time. I was going to say, you took out more health from me than the mob we were fighting did.
Yeah, I'm just a baby elf, okay?
Yeah, but you're
but a young
infused with an artifact of some kind and it makes you stronger.
Whoops. Bad and Patricia launched a media campaign against D&D, trying to get it banned through conservative Christian outlets, and they were even featured on 60 Minutes to discuss their views on the game. Although it did sound like she didn't do a great job of representing her points, like everyone said that she was just kind of wilding on the show.
With nothing backing up her theories.
No, that's the thing. She had zero facts. So she didn't come off as knowledgeable because it was just her opinion about stuff. She didn't have any evidence. She didn't have any facts. But
this is kicking up her because she's the mother of someone who passed away. And she's using that. God,
absolutely.
I hate it. And it kills me that she's using her son's death like that. Like that grinds my gears that she would use her son like that.
Everything about this grinds my gears.
Oh, everything, yes, but especially that. Like her poor son is like, oh my gosh. Like,
instead of having his memory honored.
Right.
This is what you're making of his memory.
Right, exactly. And this is what you're making other people think about your son after he's passed. Like, that is just the worst kind of human being that you could thing that you could do ever. Like, it irritates me. Anyway, continue.
Megan's getting
heated.
Spicy.
Spicy.
Is she getting sexy?
Nope.
Is she getting heated? I'll never tell.
Oh, that's right. You can see me.
Can confirm Megan's always getting sexy.
Especially in this damn apartment where it's so hot. I'm glistening right now.
So exactly what Megan said, she was using her son's death as this kicking off point. So then people were believing her because she was so passionate about it, even though she had nothing to back up what she was saying. People were like, oh, her son died. Well, then, she's being an advocate. Like, this must be true. She really helped to reinforce the false, and I repeat, false idea that D&D had this influence over young people that they could not fight. Young people were so weak-minded that they just could not fight this demonic influence that D&D had over them.
Wow.
According to the book Video Games and Education by Harry J. Brown, Patricia called Dungeons & Dragons a fantasy role-playing game which uses, this is a much greater list than the list I said before, demonology, witchcraft, voodoo, murder, rape, blasphemy, suicide, assassination, insanity, sex perversion, homosexuality, prostitution, satanic type rituals, gambling, barbarism, cannibalism, sadism, desecration, demon summoning, necromantics, I've never seen it said like that, divination, and other teachings.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. So she's on TV saying
what?
These things.
Literally none of that happens. Like, I mean, you're talking about a make-believe world where maybe it's talked about, but it's not
all of
done.
Those things for certain.
Oh my God. No, yeah, exactly.
None of the D&D modules were dark like that.
No, not the D&D ones. No.
She wrote that the spiritual corruption started with the dungeon master, who she believed had power to use the satanic rituals published in the rule book to hold influence over all of the players. In 1985, CBS News dedicated a full hour's broadcast to D&D. The episode featured interviews with Patricia Pulling and Dr. Thomas Radecki. He is the president of the National Coalition on TV Violence, or he was at the time. They linked Dungeons and... So this Dr. Thomas Radecki linked Dungeons and Dragons to 28 cases of murder or suicide. Radecki was known for giving incorrect statistics very, very often.
Well, don't you know that like 70% of statistics are made up?
That's the kind of statistics Dr. Radecki was working with.
That's right.
The University of Illinois actually revoked his medical faculty accreditation in 1985, though he continued to claim accreditation. His medical license was revoked twice on unprofessional conduct allegations.
Oh, wow. That's a winner.
So this is the guy Patricia hired to talk about D&D.
Seems super credible.
Right?
No.
One of the big issues that religious figures spoke publicly about, other than what we mentioned before with the witchcraft and demons and all that kind of stuff, was the fact that there are gods in the game. So therefore it counted as demon worship and false worship.
You're not worship. What? Sorry. I can't. You're not worshiping those things.
No, and technically your character in the game does worship a god. And you choose what god in the game.
Absolutely, but that's not you. That's not...
No, it is your made up...
Oh my god, it's a game!
Role-played imaginary character.
Okay. Oh, man.
But the church said that by doing that, it led to demon worship and you were worshiping a false god. And it counted.
Who are they to say that it counted? Sorry.
It counted as false worship.
Okay. All right, God told them that, I guess.
Yep. God slipped down and he went to their little ears and he was like, psst, psst. Hey, that game. They're doing bad stuff.
This is like Nikki ASMR right now. Oh, that's funny.
Yes. The church also said that if your character died in the game, then the player could be driven to suicide. Dun, dun, dun.
Come on. Like, now you're demeaning your mental health of people. Like,
it's making us all sound a little stupid that play D&D.
Legit. Like, this makes me so mad that they would say these things.
I mean, I'd be pretty pissed if my character died.
Oh,
because you love those
absolutely.
Characters.
You don't ever want a character to die, but you just friggin' roll a new one.
That's what I was just saying. You just roll a new character.
You're literally like, it doesn't end your like life. Doesn't end your campaign. Like, you still have the ability to play. You just roll a new character, and it sucks that you might have lost a player because you made a mistake or something happened tragically and you died in the game. But you just carry
It's really
on.
hard to kill for a character to die because you have a party with you and your party is going to help you.
Absolutely.
If you get injured,
yeah,
one of your party members is going to come to your aid.
Absolutely. And
usually you got some healing potions or something.
Yeah. And DMs, I don't know, in my personal experience with DMs, they're not like evil.
Out to get you.
They're not out to get you so that your character dies. Like, they're probably more likely to try to help you so that if you do run into a situation where you probably should have died, you'll have like a saving grace moment that's like, this probably shouldn't have happened, but you weren't going to make it otherwise.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. I totally agree. Because young people knew that adults were caught up in this frenzied witch hunt for the game, some even tried to use it as a defense when they were accused of crimes, which was not helping this case.
Oh my gosh.
Basically, they were trying to plead not guilty to whatever they were caught doing because D&D made them do it.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
I'm
not going to go into a ton of detail here because there were quite a few cases, and honestly, they were very interesting. So I took note of them, and I'll probably do them as separate bonus actions because they were meaty. They had meat to them.
Okay.
So they could be a little case on their own. Mm-hmm. But yes, D&D as a defense was used multiple times. At one point in 1981, a Kansas evangelical minister. I find that word very hard to say. I have to look at it and think about it before I
Evangelical.
Yeah. Evangelical.
Yeah,
I don't know why. That one, the gears in my head come to like a screeching halt when I see that. And it's like, you can do it. You can do it.
Yeah.
So Kansas evangelical, I even slow down, God, ministers started raising money to buy up copies of D&D manuals so that kids couldn't have access to them.
You're giving them sales, which is going to make them make more copies.
Kids are going to keep wanting them, and they're going to keep publishing them.
It's ridiculous.
The company behind D&D did everything they could to communicate to the public that it was just a fantasy game, nothing more. They even hired a well-known psychologist to speak on their behalf and say, yes, in the game there is evil and bad guys and demons, but the point of the game is to triumph over these things and defeat evil with good.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. Yeah, totally.
The cover of the original Player's Handbook and Dungeon Master's Guide would be replaced with more wholesome images in 1983 to try and appease the panicked masses. The supplemental Deities and Demigods book would quietly be renamed Legends and Lore because they were trying to get the church off their back.
Isn't it deity?
I say deity.
Oh, I don't know. I've always heard it said deity.
I've always said deity.
Okay. I don't know the right answer, but
I'm also from Cape Breton, so
fair.
We're small there. People say, and you know what, when I go back there, this still drives me crazy. People, instead of saying, I beat a game, like, oh, yeah, I did beat that game, they say, I bet. I bet that game.
No.
Or I bet him at that race.
No, that's not right.
Right? But that is like a common thing. I didn't know it wasn't correct until I removed myself from the island.
Really?
Yes, and I moved to the mainland, and then I heard people saying beat and not bet, and I was like, huh? And now when I go back, I hear people say it, and I'm like, ooh.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
Boy.
They also say use with an S.
Oh, I've heard that before. Use guys.
Are yous going to the mall later?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yep. Okay, so they replaced that with, they renamed it Legends and Lore in 1984. By the end of the 1980s, the game had totally backpedaled on demonology to try and save face. The publisher had removed the words devil and demon from all of the D&D books and replaced them with make-believe terms Tanari and Bearezu. I think that's how you say it. Bearezu. So that would replace demon and devil. A decade after the game was at the center of Satanic Panic, the whole thing just lost steam. So there was just nobody ever found a real. No,
literally, there's nothing to hold on to there. That's why it just floated away to nothingness.
Right. Not too long after it lost steam, being the target of these groups, these same groups that had attached to D&D moved on to attacking video games for their influence on impressionable minds.
Okay.
So, they had a bigger demon to slay now.
Oh, come
video
on.
Games.
Ugh. Just so ridiculous.
When Wizards of the Coast released its own edition of Dungeons & Dragons in 2000, because they bought the rights and the IP for Dungeons & Dragons, and then they released their own edition in 2000, the demons and devils had returned, and they did a fresh new edition of the deities and demigods, and no one seemed to care anymore.
Oh.
There was no fuss. Nobody made a big deal about the updates. Didn't end up in the news. They just put everything back, and everybody was cool. Now, the majority of people are much wiser, and they point out how beneficial D&D is for young people. I really liked a quote in a New York Times article, and I also saw it in a video as well about D&D, and it said that D&D redirected teenage miseries and energies that might have been put to more destructive uses. Young people learned an enormous amount about what it meant to be courageous and what it meant to be compassionate and the kind of hard moral choices that one needs to make in real life. It also gives people the chance to spend a lot of time problem solving, using your imagination, and collaborating in a group. Which I agree with absolutely all of that.
Wholeheartedly. Absolutely. And the creativity that it can bring out in people, in children especially. Oh my goodness.
Wild.
Absolutely.
I would also add to that it also teaches you leadership skills.
True.
It teaches you negotiation skills. Mm-hmm. It even teaches you a heck of a lot of math.
True.
Because you got to be able to do math.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And usually on the fly and in your head. Depending on what edition you're doing, some have a lot more. You got to do a lot of mental math.
It also can humble you.
Yes.
There are some humbling
you mean with
moments.
the math or just in general?
No, just in general. Just in general. You don't want to go in too cocky and then come out of it.
It's true. It can teach you humility.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, there's so many things. So many good things. Like it brings people who are in a shell out. It helps keep people on a balanced level. Like, absolutely. There's so many benefits to D&D in my opinion.
A lot of very successful writers or people involved in TV and film now credit D&D for helping to shape who they are by letting them be so creative and imaginative as kids that they were able to get these amazing careers, and they thank D&D.
That's amazing. I love to hear that.
Right? So because I would like to leave a good taste in everyone's mouth for D&D, I'm going to hit you with some fun D&D facts. I found these on dicecove.com. So, 50 million people played D&D to date is the estimate. 50 million.
That seems like a lot.
Yeah, I love it. Mm-hmm. 40% of players are aged 25 or younger. I don't know where they're getting these statistics, but it was on a website, so it's got to be true.
It has to be true. I don't know. Maybe they did a survey of their player base or something.
11% of players are 40 years or older. 39% of players identify as female. 4.3 billion minutes of D&D content has been watched on Twitch. Most of that is thanks in part to Critical Role. In 2020, Wizards of the Coast, the company that acquired D&D, so just in 2020, generated a total revenue of $816 million.
Holy crap.
From D&D.
Wow. That's impressive.
So business is booming.
Yeah, no doubt. I also want to go back and... I'm so sorry. My cat is ripping up paper. Don't ask. I loved the stat that you said about how high that number is for female players. Like, that makes me very happy.
Yep.
Because I feel like
they didn't have the rest of the stat, so I don't know how many... I don't know what options they gave. If it was just male, female, non-binary, or what they gave, but maybe that's why they just did the one stat. But 39%
yeah,
female.
That's still a pretty high number, higher than I would have thought initially.
Every game that I've played at, the party has been half female, half male.
Yeah,
same, split down the center.
Same here now, but it was always seemed to be more of a male-dominated game back in the day. Back in the day.
Back in the old days.
Back in our days.
Well, now is the extra awesome tiny cherry on top. I figured Again, we could tell our lovely listeners a quick summary of the characters we play in our current campaign.
Sure.
Like 10 to 20 seconds so that we don't talk for 30 minutes, because I could.
Fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
You more than me.
We play, right now, the campaign we're playing 2nd edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. So that's the version that came out in, so it's AD&D, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
And that version came out in 1989. And we're really lucky because our Dungeon Master, that's the one he originally played back in those times. And so he actually has the original player's handbook, and we use that. But we only have one, and we can't find any online at a reasonable price. So we just share the one handbook. Yeah. Do you want to tell about your character?
Sure. There's not really a whole lot to tell because I still consider myself a noob to some degree. And I also I struggle with like my creativity. It's been a long, long time since I've brought out the creativity. I don't know whatever you, which is why I struggle with words. My character is a half-elf ranger, and I'm hoping for a familiar soon. I am a level 7 at this point. I think I just leveled up actually to level 7. It's very exciting.
Oh, you just leveled up to 7?
Yep.
Nice.
And yeah, there's not really a whole lot to tell. I don't really have a backstory for her yet, but I do know where she's from. I don't have it on me, and I don't remember off the top of my head. So that's about it. I'm hoping what I want to have. So I kind of sort of based my character a little bit off of Dritz Doerden, if you know who that is. He's the main character of the R.A. Salvatore book series. And he is a drow, and my character is a half elf, so not exactly the same, but I do fight with, I'm a ranger, so I do have a bow and arrow that I fight with, but I also have 2 scimitars that I fight with as well. So I'm hoping, I'm going to like put a bug in my DM's ear, but I would love to have Black Panther as my familiar, so I could kind of like play off of the same type of character as Dritz. It's my favorite book series of all time. So if I could be living my best Dritz life, then that's the way I want to live it in my world.
Can your character,
right? My fantasy world.
Do you gain magic at any point?
Can I?
Yeah, like do you have the ability to use magic?
I think I will eventually when I hit a certain level, but I don't know what that level is off the top of my head, but I cannot
because then
do
you
it
can,
right now.
I mean, I don't know if your class can, but then you can learn the Find Familiar spell. Although familiars are generally, I mean, I lucked out with mine. So the DM is very gracious.
Most rangers
usually like
a
rat.
Yeah, fair enough. I know most rangers do get one, so it's just something that comes with the character, I guess. If you do end up getting one eventually, which we already talked about it, and we are going to get me one, but I don't know what it is or how I'm going to come across it yet. But we're developing that story now as we speak, so that should be a lot of fun.
Good summary.
Yeah. Now you go.
Well, my character is currently, I also just leveled up, so I am a level 8 chaotic good Qualinesti elf mage. And her full name is Onwin Carwin Golden Fae. But she goes, nobody in our party knows that because nobody has ever asked me that.
Wow. So all I know is your first name. Yeah.
Yeah. No one's ever asked me.
No. Why would we ask? I don't know. I guess it's
right?
Not really a conversational.
Doesn't really come up. No. So she goes by Onwin, but her name is Onwin Carwin Golden Fae.
I love that.
Yeah, she's got quite the handle.
Yeah.
She is barely an adult at the ripe old elven age of 100, because that's kind of young for an elf. She knows absolutely nothing about the world except that friends are important and that she would like to collect as many friends as she can possibly get, regardless of if they are good people or bad people.
Yeah.
She just would like to have friends. So that is what she tries to do every time we go anywhere. She has a familiar that is a pseudo dragon. So he's a small dragon, like somewhere between a large cat or a smaller dog. His name is Archibald, or Archie for short. It is her very best friend, and he curls up on her shoulders while they're traveling, and they're best buddies. Mm-hmm. Her favorite spell to cast, which Megan mentioned earlier, is glitter dust, where she shoots an absurd amount of glitter out of her hands, and it blinds their opponents. So they roll with disadvantage, and then they also get covered in glitter for a very, very long time.
Which about tracks for real life.
Yeah. And she just learned a new spell, which I haven't been able to cast yet, but I will be able to next session. And it is called Emotions. And I can cast a spell, and if I roll good, I can make people feel an emotion that I choose. And one of the options is friendship. So I think this is where her chaotic good is going to come in. Because
love it.
If somebody doesn't want to be her friend,
yeah,
she can really try and make you her friend.
Yeah.
But she has good intentions. She's very nice.
Regardless if it's against their will or not.
Yeah. She's precious. She hates wearing shoes, and she doesn't care for material things or money. She does not care about any of that. She loves nature, making new friends. Like, making friends pretty much gets the party in trouble every time we go anywhere, but she doesn't know any better.
Every single time.
And she's just doing her best. She's pretty sweet. She made the party friendship bracelets. One time Megan missed a session and you weren't there. And so my character bought chalk and drew you a picture of us on the ground in case you
No,
came
you
looking for us.
didn't.
Absolutely. I did. You weren't there. You didn't know that. And it was probably the worst stick figure drawing you've ever seen. But I was very concerned that you would come back because we didn't know where you were. And we were concerned that you would come back and you wouldn't know where we were. So I drew you a picture with an arrow.
That's actually adorable.
Yep.
And then I come back and I am no longer your best friend. So that kind of sucked.
Yeah, Megan left for a session. So I got a new best friend.
Yeah.
He's a Minotaur.
Okay,
Centaur.
whatever.
Minotaur? Which one has people bottom?
That's a Minotaur.
Minotaur.
Centaur? Wait. Now I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's a Minotaur. I'm going to look. Minotaur. Yes. Body of a man and the head of a bull. No, that's the other one then. Is it that one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know why.
He's got a bull head and a man body.
Okay, then that's what it is. Minotaur. Interesting.
Yep. So that's...
I should have said
pretty fab.
I was just trying to find I didn't say my character's name at all. But I can't remember her last name off the top of my head because of course
can't remember her last
name. Terrible person when it comes to this game. Her first name is Saleda, and that was a name that I chose back in the day when I used to play World of Warcraft all the time. That was my character's name in that game. So, and I loved it. So I kind of carried it through to my D&D session. Her middle name is Ileana, which is a name I pulled from a book that I read. People who have read it know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the Wheel of Time series. And her last name I pulled from just nothing. I don't remember. I think I did like a name generator for like a elf name generator.
Those are legit.
Yeah, they are. And it's really cool when it starts with an R. I just cannot. Ravenna or something like that. Saleda, Ileana, Ravenna. It was very elf-like, which I enjoyed. Yeah. So
I love elven names.
Mm-hmm, same. Yeah. So she's pretty great. I do love her, and I will give her more of a story at some point. But yeah.
Oh, I have a full backstory for my elf.
Creating that kind of stuff for me is really hard. I'm not very creative when it comes to story, like making up storylines and stuff. And I don't know.
Oh, I flourish with that.
I just need to understand it a little better, I think.
You can do it.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of D&D, get your D20 and roll up a category there, Saleda.
I'm going to roll my Phoenix Fire D20. That's the name of the die pack I got. Dice pack. All right, here we go. All right. Hey, I got a 16.
Nice.
That's a good roll. Black-eyed children. Well, OMG. I happen to love this category, so I am very excited to write stories about black-eyed children. Oh, it's going to give me the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah, that's creepy.
I'm very excited. Cool. Well, thank you everybody for joining us for this lovely D&D session that we just had.
Did we just play a game of D&D?
I think we just did, yeah.
That would be my dream, is to have a live show where we play D&D.
Like a one-shot D&D? Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay.
It's like impossible to do because your party could only be like 6 people at most.
That's
More than
so
that,
true,
it gets a little wild. And
yeah, we'll just pull people from the audience and we'll have like a quick session.
yeah.
That'd be cool. So thank you everybody if you for joining us. If you want to follow us, you know how to find us. We are the Grimdark Diaries. So we are on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we're even on TikTok now if you want to get on there. I don't think we've started posting on there yet, but we will. If you want to send us an email, we are at thegrimdarkdiaries@gmail.com. Let us know all your crazy D&D stories. I'd love to hear them. If you're on Apple Podcasts, we would love it if you would give us a comment and a 5-star rating. It does help us with our algorithms to get us out there a little bit more. We want to get in the ear holes of other people. That'd be great.
Oh, you know what we should do?
What?
Let me just interrupt you real quick. When we post the photos for this story, we should each take a picture of our little minis that we use to play D&D so people can get an idea of what our characters look like.
Sure. Yeah, that'd be great. Definitely.
They're very tiny minis, so they don't have a lot of detail.
We'll
but
like put them
they
up
get the point across. Yours is tall, though.
Mine is tall. Well, that's what we've discovered, that they are taller than the half-elf.
Oh, yeah. Or my elf is only 5 feet tall.
Yeah.
She's just a little smidgen.
And my half-elf is 5'7", so it tracks. Okay. Any other podcast platform, whatever you're listening to us on, Spotify, you can give us a 5-star rating now. So if you're listening to us on Spotify, just go right to our profile page, scroll to the top, and then give us a 5-star rating. We would absolutely love and appreciate you for that. And whatever other podcast platforms you're listening to us on, if you want to go ahead and like us, subscribe, follow, whatever that platform will allow you to do, we would love it and appreciate you so, so much. And join us next week to see what I come up with for Black-Eyed Children. And remember, a friend in the dark beats alone in the light.